Right, welcome back. As we edge closer to May 29, D-Day, where you make your mark, we welcome SABC News reporter Natasha Piri in studio for our new weekly feature. It looks at election news as South Africans prepare to make their mark on the 29th of May. Natasha is in studio. Natasha, very good evening to you. Several independent candidates have raised their hands, aiming to, of course, enter the union buildings. They're hard at work, trying to convince voters to elect them. And some independent candidates are weighing their options on coalitions. What is at stake?
Well, thank you so much, Mpho. And of course, to our late edition viewers, a welcome once again to this segment of Political Wrap. And of course, this is where we actually wrap up the news events of the week, those political stories that actually made headlines. I love the fact that you put an emphasis on independent candidates. Yes, we've seen political parties intensifying their campaign over this past week, but so is political candidates, Mpho. Of course, we know that we have 11 political candidates. Quite sad that it's only 2 women and 9 men. Just for South Africans, for the purpose of just notifying you, informing you who those independent candidates are, I'd like to read up their names. You've got Faith Patela, you've got Blessing Ramoba, who will join us shortly in studio, Anele Mda, Ramoba JC Singh. You've also got Tshepo Mogano, the likes of Matsobani Mokonyane, Louis Liebenberg, Zaki Ahmad. You've also got Thanasagren Moodley and Bongani Wellington. And of course, we've been seeing these political, upon these independent candidates just crisscrossing the country, and of course saying to those people that are on the voters roll, the 27.7 million South Africans that are on the voters roll, that listen, they've put their hands up. They want to vie not only for those regional seats in the National Assembly, but of course various seats in the provincial legislature. Of course, we will be joined by those 3 guests, and one will be via Zoom. Anele, Blessing, and of course via our Zoom platform, we're joined by Thanasagren Moodley. Thanasagren, let me probably start off with you. You've also got a background, history in political activism. You're also artist for about 15 years, and you decided to move into politics. So you want to drive a pro-Indian agenda. Are you not also afraid, though, that this might be seen as excluding other groups?
Well, good evening, and thank you for having me, first of all. No, not at all. I mean, at the moment, PG Mavunla of the ABC is driving a pro-native agenda. And I think Dr. Makosi Koza on the radio the other day was clear that, firstly, as a community, we have to first harness our own potential, know what we have. We have our own language and our own culture. So first, we have to harness that potential to become truly part of the Rainbow Nation. So that's very important for me in terms of driving a so-called Indian agenda. It must be clearly noted that driving a pro-Indian agenda, or as the ABC promotes, a pro-native agenda, it doesn't mean if you pro your community that you're anti anybody else. I think that's what is a misconception. Being pro-Indian doesn't make me anti anybody else. It just means that our community, the South African Indian community, has its own needs and needs its own voice.
And Mr. Moodley, what is that agenda, and how do you actually hope to champion the rights of the Indian community?
Well, firstly, let me start by saying this, but the pro-Indian agenda stems from this. I'm a firm believer in social cohesion. I'm born and bred in KZN. I think I have my finger on the pulse of what happens in KZN. And social cohesion, just maybe juxtaposing what I'm saying here, or what people understand. Social cohesion is a major part of my campaign, of what I want to achieve, because social cohesion has to do with Indo-African relations in the province of KZN. And for as long as I'm alive, and as long as our forefathers landed here over 160 years ago, there has been social cohesion between Indians and Africans in KZN. However, July 2021 taught us clearly that the forces that prevail want to divide and rule. And they came up with this racist Indian narrative to divide and conquer. So I was driven by that, actually, from July 2021 to conquer or debunk this myth that's been created by politicians, business people, or whoever that want to divide. Social cohesion exists in KZN. It has always existed, but people want to disrupt that social cohesion. And then the Indian agenda means the media in 2021, July 21, played this Indian racist narrative. There's no such thing. It doesn't exist. I'm here to debunk that myth. I'm here to tell the media.
So how do you justify what happened?
It doesn't exist.
How do you justify what happened in Phoenix?
Well, what happened in Phoenix? You tell me.
We all know that a certain group were actually killed. There's a court case currently underway where there was said some Indian people had allegedly killed black people during the July unrest.
Well, those are exactly what you said, those allegations, and 30 people were arrested as scapegoats for so-called racism. July 2021, what is not spoken about actually is the instigators of the biggest riot in this country's history that cost us the economy billions of rands. But the same the media want to speak about so-called racist Indians, when in fact they forget about the instigators. And that's what I mean by this agenda. The instigators of the biggest riot in our history want to move the narrative towards racist Indians in Phoenix and forgetting about this big riot that happened in our country that almost destabilized the entire country. Why not move the narrative there?
Okay.
That's where we need to be.
Mr. Moodley, let me just park this interview right here. Let me just also talk to the independents that we actually have in studio, and of course we'll come back to you shortly. So Blessing, you are also involved in politics. You started a very interesting political party. You formed the Employment Rights Political Party. Why are you now contesting as an independent if you actually formed this political party? And for a person who's sitting at home who says, but why should I put my faith in an independent candidate?
Okay, thank you very much for inviting me. My name is Blessing Ramoba. I'll be contesting for the coming elections in the province of Limpopo and Gauteng, and I'm aiming for a parliament seat. Answering your question regarding the political party, Employment Rights Party is a party that champions for employment for South Africans. But unfortunately, we registered very late this year. So for the preparations to contest the elections, we were not going to manage with time. Now, I am contesting as an independent candidate, and my agenda in terms of my manifesto is to focus on creating employment opportunities and also to actually grow the economy. We have got very interesting policies that which we are proposing, the likes of industrialization, the likes of manufacturing, massive manufacturing. It's also looking at the mining sector. One of the things that we are speaking about is that 50% of our minerals must be beneficiated here. By so doing, we are going to be creating, products like cars, and other technologies in this country. Other things amongst our manifestos, make sure that we strengthen our borders, we build walls, and make sure that we get rid of illegal immigration that which is happening right now. And we speak about mass deportation of illegals in the country. I can tell you that most of South Africans are looking for jobs, but these companies, they are actually hiring illegals currently. And about 6 million people are employed within all the sectors of the economy, and these are illegals. And those are spaces that which we can actually give South Africans a space to work.
Blessings, you also talk about job creation, and I'll take you back to the formation of the Employment Rights Political Party. What practical things did you achieve under that political party that you think you could actually do better as an independent candidate? And then furthermore, looking through your manifesto, you talk about nuclear energy. You say that nuclear energy must be introduced and there needs to be more power stations to actually deal with the energy crisis that we face as a country.
Correct. When coming to energy, it's very difficult to create employment under this climate of load shedding. No country will ever create employment with this kind of situation. We need sustainable energy. We need much available energy, which is, we talk about nuclear energy. We talk about, coal plants that which we currently have. Let's maintain them and also maybe extend the life of these power stations. Let's bring them also the renewables into, to add into the grid. But let's not destroy the coal. We have got abundant coal plants, coal resource in the country, which can take us for up to 50 years. So what I'm talking about, that if we want to create employment in this country, we should make sure that we have got available source of power. If I can tell you, during the load shedding, We have lost a lot of jobs because of, of load shedding, which was caused by the current government of the ANC.
Okay, let me take this conversation to Anele Mda. Anele, you're no stranger to South African politics. You were once a COPE member of parliament, a leader of the ANC Youth League, and this time around you're seeking to go to parliament through that regional seat, but as an independent candidate. For a person who's watching you at home and says, but I had faith in Anele, the COPE member of parliament, you're going in as an independent candidate. You look at the figures right now. If you're looking to vie for a regional seat, you need roughly, if the voter turnout is 100%, roughly around over 100,000 votes. Do you think you're going to get those?
Thank you, Natasha, and thanks for inviting me on this show. I've got no doubt in the level of confidence that South Africans have shown me when this process started. I mean, when we started, when IEC said we need to collect signatures, I wouldn't have been inside the process of being gazetted as an independent candidate without the support and the love of South Africans, which they have shown me immensely. And I cannot underscore that and think that they would lack the necessary agitation to reach the ballot and do the right thing by the ballot, because I literally have been carried by the shoulders of those people up to this point. And I think there is a paradigm shift that is taking place in the South African electorate that is beginning to understand that fixing South Africa where it is currently to where it needs to be at is going to require a contingent of citizens that join hands together, understanding that there is a lot that has gone wrong. There's a lot that must be fixed. And I think at this point in time, there's also a very deep sense of enlightenment that South Africans have got an understanding that Parliament is not an extension of a party political space, but is rather an assemble of the contestation of ideas that must sharpen how we collectively and individually as a people of this country move this country forward. And that space provides us a central position that we can all go to, descend onto, and bring all suggestions and views that are going to be meaningful to ensure that we build South Africa.
Anele, I just quickly want to get into this, just quickly, briefly in 30 seconds. Apart from your manifesto where you want to abolish the tender system, you talk about waging war and fighting crime. You've just recently got the sad news where Didebo Jr. was fatally shot when they were hijacking his father's car. You've got the issue of the water mafia that I heard of today. How do you practically think you'll be able to do away with these things should you be voted into parliament?
I think the fight against crime is not something that we must continually being theoretical about. We must be very practical. When we say police must unleash war on criminals, we must also, as South Africans, be able to live with the consequences, because criminals are not strangers. Criminals are people that we are related to. Criminals are our friends. So we must be able to bear the brunt that will come with those consequences, and police must use the necessary force to ensure that citizens are safe.
Okay, Anele, let me just take this to Blessings and Mr. Moodley, just in 30 seconds. Blessings, you're going to need over 100,000 votes if you want to go to the National Assembly. Are you confident of this?
Of course. I mean, we are campaigning, just like every political party. We are on the ground, we are speaking to South Africans about the issues that affects them. And, with the high unemployment rate of 32 to 40% in the country, and also talking about, a lot of people dependent on grants. People want jobs, and 350 is not enough. I think that is a bribe to young people.
Thank you, Blessings. Mr. Moodley, 30 seconds. You'd roughly need about 71,000 votes to make it to the KZN legislature. Is this going to be hard for you?
No, it's going to be a walk in the park. I think
sure?
I'm the dark horse in the race, but we're going to get it. We're going to make history.
Okay, a walk in the park, like Mr. Moodley says. He is confident that he'll be getting that those 71,000 votes there at the KZN legislature. So is Anele, and of course Blessings. Thank you so much for joining us in studio, and all the best with your campaign. Of course, as SABC News, we aim to give equitable coverage, and not only just political parties, but of course independent candidates. These are just 3 of the 11 independent candidates that will be vying for the national and provincial elections.